system to be fairer, to be smarter, and to be more effective. I've visited more than 49 facilities as of today, and I've been to one federal correctional facility. I needed to do that to better understand the issues as it pertains to our families and friends and loved ones who are incarcerated. You know, I just believe that there's no way for me to be able to advocate for folk I don't know anything about. But I have to say to you all, and some of you have heard me say it before, I have loved ones who are incarcerated. I have a nephew. I talk about my brother who died over at Lake Butler.
A couple months ago, he was moved from the institution that he was housed at Martin Correctional Institution up to the Lake Butler Correctional Institution where he is housed at now. He suffered an injury from an assault from an officer and an inmate. That injury resulted in the department doing everything it could to deny him getting an MRI. As a result of that injury now being 18 months old from him finally getting up to Lake Butler to be treated, his arm has literally gone into total atrophy. The condition that he has been listed in is going to require probably anywhere from $500,000 to $700,000 to repair his injury if his arm does not fall off first. He is walking around the compound at Lake Butler with an arm dangling off the side.
Welcome to the Convict Podcast, folks. I'm your host, Dimanche, and today we will be going over yet another mysterious death in the Florida Department of Corrections. You guys know, for those of you guys who follow me on Facebook and Instagram, you saw in my Instagram stories and one of my posts on Facebooks, I just got out of the hospital, been in the hospital for a little while, and we just had a cesarean. We're recovering from that, and we welcomed some more Dimanche kids into the world, folks. So, you know, we're home and we're living our best life, and I'm back like I left something. Let's pick up where we left off, though. The last serious issue, well, we talk about nothing but serious issues here, but one of the major issues that we covered lately was the removal of the mortality table from the Department of Corrections website. And a lot of you guys have been hitting me up trying to let me know that it's been restored. And I'm a little late on this because I've been in the hospital, but let me clarify what happened. State Representative Diane Hart posted on Facebook that after she watched my video on that issue, she immediately contacted Secretary Mark Inch and worked to have the table restored. Apparently she has a working relationship with him, and she made that happen. Shout out to 1090 Jake. He helped get the word out about it. He was actually the first person to share the video, and he did it immediately. He got the word out about it. We all raised public awareness, and the state reps, they were furious about this, and they acted swiftly, and it was restored immediately. I just haven't been able to get to it. But Representative Hart, she reached out to the powers that be, and I don't know what the discussion consisted of, but it's back up. And I would suggest that anyone who is interested in reading the summaries of the inmate deaths and anything related to it, make a carbon copy of everything that's on that website right now, because you know they're going to pull another shenanigan in order to remove that stuff from public access. So get it while it's up. You know what I mean? And from what I understand, their excuse was that they remodeled their website, and in the process, they just removed all of the links to the inmate deaths. So go figure. That's very Department of Corrections-ish to you know, fake left and go right, give you that smoke screen and do something behind the scenes. It's in their DNA, and it's always going to be like very visible. It's going to be blatant because the corruption and the secretive nature, it's in their genetic fabric. So anything they do, they can't even remodel a website without betraying public trust. Okay, so you guys send me a lot of stuff, particularly on Messenger, and I would recommend you don't send me anything from Florida Cares. I won't read it. You know, for those of you guys who have sent me those links to the Florida Cares things, Facebook will show that, you know, I haven't read your message yet, but I did. I just don't allow it to go through. I will not even open it. So send me something from an independent source, and I'll open it and I'll investigate it. Don't send me nothing from Florida Cares. So a correctional officer reached out to me, and he informed me of something startling. He informed me, now you guys know that I explained to you guys how the chemical agents are being used to kill the inmates, and they're using the crowd control canisters, the MK9, on individual inmates in the cell. He told me, and he asked me to not put his name out there, so I won't, but he let me know he's a fan of the show, that he doesn't hate my guts as I assumed, but shout out to that correctional officer. He let me know that now when they use the chemical agents, they have a nozzle that changes to where they can use either crowd control or individual applications. I did not know that, and I want to know exactly when that was implemented. So any of my correctional officers who have information on that, feel free to hit me up on Messenger or email me. And if you have any information about that, I'd like to know, because I'd like to cover that on the podcast, because that's a huge advancement in use of force in the prison system, and it could be something that could cast a better light on use of forces in prison if that's what you guys are aiming for, and it would explain a lot of other things that's been happening. So I want to get to the bottom of that. For my correctional officers who like to talk all of that crap to me in the comment section and on Messenger and sending me these emails, listen, you guys can, I want you guys to do something. Tell all of the other correctional officers that you know to subscribe to my channel, because guess what? Here in YouTube world, we're 95 subs away from being able to have a live show on YouTube. And I won't have to use any of that complicated software like Wirecast or anything. So you know what that means? You guys will be able to call into the show and say all of that crap to me on the phone. All of you guys who've been talking that shit, you can do it on the phone now. And it's crazy because we have everybody here on the Convict Podcast. We have former inmates, we have the prison reform activists, we have the relatives of inmates, and we have the correctional officers. Why not have a group discussion? Okay, tell your correctional officer friends to subscribe to this channel. Get us over that threshold, and I'll open up the phone lines, and you can talk that shit to me. You can have a conversation with the families. Everybody can talk. Instead of just, getting behind that keyboard and saying what you're saying, let's get it on. Let's go ahead and get that head up. So, and also for my correctional officers, I have a giveaway for you guys. I'm going to be giving away a free copy of my book, It Takes a Criminal to Know One, a free signed copy. And I'm going to write a little message in there for whichever one of you guys gets it right. And as you can see, it's a hefty read, 500 pages. And all you have to do is let me know the correct year that CN was removed from the approved list of chemical agents to be used on inmates. Anybody, the first correctional officer to guess the correct year on that, I will mail you that book free of charge. And I'm going to have a little note in there for you. So we got my correctional officer giveaway. Tell the other COs to subscribe, and let's have the conversation. So without further ado, let's get into today's case. Today's case is going to be about inmate Eugene Martin. He died at Franklin Correctional Institution, and this case, it highlights some alarming concerns as usual, but the thing about this case is that it actually exposes how the Department of Corrections, it's not the sole agency responsible for covering up these inmate deaths. So it's the way that his case was disposed of is actually more alarming than how he actually died. So check this out. Officer Demetrius Straker called in the A-team to respond to inmate Martin laying on his bunk. They immediately put him in hand restraints, transported him to medical, and he was pronounced deceased. So, this man, now, according to this report, this is what they saw. They looked at the fixed wing camera, and they saw that this man smoked something, and then he laid down on this bunk, and they assumed that he passed out. They said that the inmates were walking around and not doing anything about it. They called in the A-team to see what was wrong with him, and the first thing they do is put him in hand restraints. So if this man is in distress, if this man is suffering from any kind of medical issues, why is the first thing they always do is put these inmates in handcuffs? I mean, if he's passed out, there's no threat that he's going to, spaz out and hit somebody or get physically combative or anything like that. The first thing, that's what they always do. They do this to dead inmates. They roll them over, put them in hand restraints, and to them, the problem solved. So they put this man in hand restraints and they drag him to medical. So what's alarming about this, they put this man in hand restraints and he died. Now, there's a whole lot more to this story that's not in the report, because there was a subject officer who was investigated for something criminal, and they don't even identify that officer, and they don't say what the criminal investigation was about. But there was a subject officer, and that officer was exceptionally cleared. They got witness testimony and everything. They fixed they checked the fixed wing cameras, and they're trying to paint the picture like this man smoked some K2, passed out and died. But check this out. So on March 28th, the investigators reach out to the state attorney's office to see what was the results of the investigation. They reach out to state attorney Logan Wilcox, right? Now, Logan Wilcox already has the medical examiner's conclusion of how this man died, right? He tells the inspectors, I'm trying to close this case in the next, his exact quotes was, quote, I'm trying to close this case in the next few days. That is a big problem coming from a state attorney. You're trying to close this case before you even get to the bottom of it, before all of the final results are even in. You are trying to close this case in the next few days. And apparently he couldn't close it for another 13 days because there was something in there that wasn't adding up. Now, if he already has the medical examiner's report and he couldn't close it for 13 days, there was an underlying issue that implicated somebody or something. And they're not saying what it is. So he has the medical examiner's report, right? They have this footage that this man smoked something and passed out. But guess what? The medical examiner's reports didn't conclude that there was K2 in his system. So guess what that means? That means that man probably smoked a cigarette. You know what else that means? That collapse was probably a heart attack. That means that collapse was probably an asthma attack. And the first thing they did was put him in handcuffs. The man was in physical distress. And not only did they allow him to sit there for several minutes, the first thing they did was put him in hand restraints. That's going to inhibit his ability to breathe properly. He's in hand restraints. And I'm all but certain he died on the way to medical because they dragged him in handcuffs. Regardless. Or even if they put him in a stretcher and he's still in handcuffs, it's very difficult to breathe like that, especially in distress. So he could have died from either an asthma attack or a heart attack. They put him in hand restraints. But my problem with this case is that the state attorney was not trying to get to the bottom of it. He was not trying to find fault in anyone's, at the fault of any of these officers. The first thing on his agenda was to close the case in the next few days. But there was still 2 weeks worth of investigating to do. He had already had his mind made up to close this case. I guarantee you, if you look at the specifics of this case and how he was dealt with and the real cause of death, somebody was liable and this death could have been avoided. Someone was at fault. And thanks to the state attorney, Logan Wilcox, they were exceptionally cleared and the evidence wasn't even taken seriously because he came into this whole issue ready to close the case before it even got started. So that indicates, that the state attorney's office is just as complicit in all of these cover-ups as the medical examiner and the Department of Corrections. It takes a team. It takes a village to do this kind of stuff. And they're all in cahoots, folks. They're all in cahoots. So, I've been wanting to talk about that so long because a lot of the other cases that I've talked about indicated the same thing. But to have this specific quote from the state attorney saying, I'm trying to close this case pronto, that it put my focus more on them this time. So, another one, folks. These investigations aren't even being taken seriously. And then you wonder why these people, this has become a normal practice for them. Because it's been normalized. It's normal now.